I am working on my granny squares. And we're making a granny square hat. And this music that you hear, this beautiful harp music, is of me playing for my DVD, The Water's Edge. And this music is available on my YouTube page, my main page called Tiffany Juliet. This is the granny square hat that we made, and I've made 6 granny squares. The 6th one's going to go on top. And I have sewn the squares together, and I'm doing the last one to show you how to sew these squares together. So I am taking my square and I'm looking for the corner here. I'm looking for the 3 chains that I made from my previous row when making the granny square, which would be located right here. And it's right here. And I'm going to take the wrong sides of the granny squares and I'm going to put the 2 squares together. Why? Because you're sewing your seam, doing the whip stitch on the wrong side, which is what you want. And so also, when you're working, you'll know that you're working on the wrong sides. If you look at the V's, your V stitching, you'll be able to notice and see the stitching better from the wrong side compared to this side, which is more difficult. This song that I'm playing on my golden harp is called Canon in D. One of my most popular videos on YouTube on my main page, Tiffany Juliet, is the Canon in D harp ensemble. It's got about 300,000 views. So we're going to take our yarn and we're going to use this type of needle. I got this in a looming project kit. And you're going to look for your chain of 3, which is right by this first corner that you did for your granny stitch. So here it is. And you're going to be doing the whip stitch. And you're going to be doing the whip stitch on the back loops. So if this was your front loop, this would be the back loop. And you're going to insert your needle in here in the back loop. And then you're going to find look at your previous granny square. And you're going to look at your previous granny square. And you're going to find that chain of 3, which is going to be right here. It's going to be, if this is the front of your granny square, okay, and this is your corner, you're going to look at your first corner that you made. Your chain of 3 is going to be in between the corner and the side here. So that would be located right here. The 3rd stitch in the 3 chain stitches that you did. So you're going to make sure that you're working on the wrong side of the material, And I've already put my needle through here, through the top loop. So I'm going to look for the top loop for this granny square, which I found. And you're going to look for the top loop. Just right here. You're going to put your squares together like this. And you're just going to pull your needle through the top stitches of the V, and you're going to create a knot, a very light knot, like if you were tying a shoe almost. Just one time you're going to knot it, and that is going to hold the position of your thread. And it's light enough that if you wanted to pull that knot out, it'd be very easy to do that. Okay, so now for doing the whip stitch, you're going to repeat what we just did through this whole side going across until you get to your corner here. And you're going to look for your corner that you did here when you created this granny stitch. And you're going to look for your chain of 3 where the corner is. Past the corner, past the corner. And that would be right here. And that's where you're going to stop sewing for this particular seam. For your going to do the whip stitch, and I'm going to do a few stitches here to show you while you're enjoying listening to my beautiful harp music. Enjoy. One of the last things that we are going to do before we start the brim is that we are going to do a whip stitch to connect this hat together, which would be the first granny square and our last one. And we are going to do the same technique as we were doing before. We're going to sew doing the whip stitch, the back side together. So we're going to look at our granny squares and determine where our back side is, back side stitches, which is this is. And then we're going to put these together. So when it's all sewed up, it'll look like this. And this will be the body of the hat. And then our next step after that is to make the brim and then to put our top granny square on top of the hat. So we are going to be doing the whip stitch in the same technique as we have been doing with the other ones. This song is called Dance of the Little Fish, and it's on my YouTube page, Tiffany Juliet. So we are going to be looking for our corner on our granny stitch, and we're going to look at the chain, and that's where we're going to begin. We did 3 chains, 3 stitches. So this is where the chain is at. This is our 3rd one. And we're going to be putting our needle in the V, on the back of the V. Keeping in mind that we are going to be working on the back side. This is our front side, and this is the back. I am now working on putting the hat together. I have done all of the granny squares except for the top. The granny squares are about 5 inches, and I have so far put them together, and I am now working on the top. I took the granny square that is on the top and I pinned it together to the body of the hat, and I started sewing it together with the whip stitch. The blue granny square is the top of the hat, and I pinned it together. You can use pins, or I use stitch markers. And you can see that my stitch markers are blue and pink, and it gives me an idea of where I'm going to put this together. And I'm doing the whip stitch, and I have done most of the hat, and I'm going to finish the front side of the hat, and I am working on the wrong side of the hat because I do not want the seam to be too noticeable. And so I'm about right here, and I'm going to go across, and when I get to the point where I'm going to be, where I have a big hole right here, that I have 2 granny stitches that are going to be connected to the top one, I'll be using the chain that was in this granny square to sew up here on the bottom of the top of the granny square for the blue one. So if this is the chain, I'm going to be sewing the chain up to here, so this big hole is not going to show, and it's going to move the hat